try to do, it's crazy.
I think this what makes Iowa State now 1-7 all time in the Sweet 16, and for a team that
Yeah,
this was the third time under TJ Altenberger that we got to the Sweet 16. We're 0-3, and just this is going to be a bitter one because this does really remind you a lot of 2014. That was a pretty that was just a sad time for Iowa State fans when George Neave broke his foot. We also had the Chris Babb broken ankle. You can add Josh Jefferson's ankle to the list of injuries that cut Iowa State's season short.
I don't blame people when people said that they feel that Iowa State's cursed. I don't blame them at all, one bit, man. Hello, everybody. Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome back to the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
And I'm your host, Cody Mancillo.
Cody, unfortunately, the Sweet 16 hump we weren't able to conquer. Iowa State goes down, sadly, 76-62 on Friday night. I know everybody that came up was extremely excited just based on what the weekend could have been. Unfortunately, the Cyclones were cold from 3, 5 of 23 from 3. And yeah, it was upsetting. It goes once again into basically one of those what if seasons, and it's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, not just the cold shooting from 3, but also the length and the physicality of Tennessee. Iowa State just could not match. I mean, yeah, 6'5" Nate Heise. I mean, love his effort and his physicality, but it just could not match a 6'10" Nate Ahmet or any of the bigs that Tennessee had. That was just a bad matchup for Iowa State from start to finish, and it clearly showed in the rebound disparity.
Yeah, I believe they doubled Iowa State up 40-23. Yeah. It was ridiculous. I think that was really the name of the game that really what lost us the game. Is just nothing. Whatever we try to do, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think this what makes Iowa State now 1-7 all time in the Sweet 16, and for a team that this was the third time under TJ Altenberger that we got to the Sweet 16. We're 0-3, and this is going to be a bitter one because this does really remind you a lot of 2014. I know that was a pretty that was just a sad time for Iowa State fans when George Neave broke his foot. We also had the Chris Babb broken ankle. You can add Josh Jefferson's ankle to the list of injuries that cut Iowa State's season short.
Yeah, so I don't blame people when people said that they feel that Iowa State's cursed. I don't blame them at all, one bit, man.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because obviously, I was watching the post game. It was Josh Jefferson, he really wanted to get out there one last time, and he was so frustrated and disappointed that he had to watch from the sideline because he wasn't able to play. And I will say this: I think Josh Jefferson, he plays in that game against Tennessee. He makes a bit of a difference because his size would have really helped out Iowa State.
Yeah, probably would have made a difference. Also, probably if we would have hit 4 or 5 more threes, probably made those. Probably would have been more in it, but hey, we got to move on. But also, we have some other news from that game. Milan Momcilovic has declared for the NBA draft.
I think this is something where I think at least for me, I was kind of not surprised about it because I think this was a thing in November that I've been following. Is Milan's probably gonna, if he has a really good year, he's gonna at least test the draft. I don't know if he's gonna at least declare or be drafted because I think he does have the possibility. But obviously, if you're Milan, he's probably gonna go and see where his stock is and get some feedback from NBA scouts and go from there. And I think that's something that got lost. Milan declaring for the draft doesn't mean that there's not the possibility of him coming back because he can still come back for a senior year and he could be a 4-year guy for Iowa State, just like Taylor Lipsey. So that's my guess. Milan's going to go because I think the draft boards that I've seen at least have him as a second round pick. I think if I was very, very optimistic, would be late first round. But I mean, this NBA draft class, this freshman class that we have is very, very stacked. So I don't know where you put Milan in that regard. And I think one thing that I think Milan wants to work at is just him going up against NBA dudes because that's what you're going to see every night. And we've seen in these in these games, the Sweet 16, or against guys that are like NBA bound, Milan kind of is a non-factor, and that's because the athleticism just can't match, and that's just simply something that he just cannot really like. That's just kind of one of his disadvantages. He has the shooting; he's like the best shooter in college basketball, no doubt about it. But I think it's him being matched up against NBA dudes and him creating his own shot against those really tough defenses. That's where I think some of his game like it can be improved on. And I'm thinking that's like if I'm inclined right now, he'll probably go to the draft, like he'll go to the draft combine, get some feedback, but he'll ultimately return to Iowa State.
Yeah. So I thought about this, and once Brent Bloom made that point on Williams and Bloom yesterday, I thought to myself, because I had this conversation a few times with some friends of mine, and I was like, well, why wouldn't he stay in the draft? But because for me, I'm just looking at it just from a GM standpoint, especially if they are viewing him as a guy that they can just put on the corner and make threes. I was just thinking, like, especially if you're going to be picking in the near the end of the first round, those are usually good teams that usually want depth pieces for like a playoff run. So like, let's say if you were to go like a OKC or a Boston, I'm thinking that he could definitely be a valuable piece. And also just thinking this way, you know, I don't know how much better he can really be. And I get, this could be an argument. And my argument for him possibly staying in the draft is maybe you should go strike while the iron's hot. So maybe he sees it as that, and this is the highest that his value is going to be. But hey, if he wants to become more of a complete player and work defensively and work on like during these tournament games to where there are lapses and where he just disappears, then yeah, I could totally see that. But I just think sometimes we may have to look and maybe think from what the mind of a GM is thinking.
I mean, that's true. But also, I think like there's something to understand when it comes to like kind of the money side of things, and with the way players get paid in NIL,
Hmm.
like a guy like me, like can get paid $2-3 million staying in college, and in the way the draft, I think unless like you get drafted in the top like 20, unless you're a lottery pick in the NBA, you're not going to necessarily get that high of a salary, as
Sure.
far as I know. So that's where I think you can see Milan staying. But I mean, I'm not surprised he's testing the waters, and I think you hit it on the head. Really, it's being a complete player. I think there's a instance where I think there's an itch for Milan to become more of a complete player because he's got the offense. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, he's the best 3-point shooter in the country. But also, you're going to go up against NBA guys every night. And I don't know if they're going to go hard defensively, but it's just that level of athleticism that, yeah, has given Milan problems and why he has disappeared in these tournament games. I think that's something where I think you're Milan. I think that's what he wants to work on, and I mean that's certainly an option. Give yourself one more year to like really like shore up that part of your game, and then you can go. Perhaps if you keep shooting the way you are, and you add like the defensive intensity and the ability to really create your own shot, I think that can really help him maybe boost himself up into the lottery pick. But I mean, in most years, he would be part of that maybe late lottery pick. But I think it's because of the stacked draft class that we have. I mean, it's not just a freshman, but it's so many other players. I mean, Joshua Jefferson was higher than Milan on a lot of draft boards. So you can really see the value of Jefferson and all arounder. So it's just, I think this year's draft class is so stacked where you really see like that's where Milan, like, and it's no fault to him, but I think it's just the talent that you have in the draft class coming from the freshmen and so many other players. I think it's going to really make difficult, and maybe that's where Milan could consider coming back for another year.
Very, very true. And it's gonna be we'll be with you here every step of the way for everything moving in and out. The portal opens April 7th, and it's open till the 21st. So a 2 week window to where we will be making sure to be up on everything that is happening with the basketball roster. All right. Second thing I want to talk about in this show is we're are just gonna reflect on the season as a whole. Cody, I want to hear your thoughts.
I mean, this was probably really good. This was a really good season, or gee, just another really good year for him. Top 10 program consistently throughout the year. You kind obviously you didn't end it the way you wanted to. I kind of viewed the Sweet 16 as like it's expected. It was just obviously disappointing. So maybe it's a failure in that regard because like you look at this team like they could have definitely gone to a national championship game, maybe win the whole title, but obviously Sweet 16 by no means is like a bad thing. It's just disappointing when like you expect so much more, but still. Three Sweet 16s in 5 years, that's something to not scoff at all. So, and I mean, the way that Iowa State, I think this was a really, really put together team. And just some of the signature wins that Iowa State had, whether it was smacking number one Purdue and Mackey, getting the Cyhawk win at Hilton, then you had the wins against Kansas and Houston. Would have definitely loved, like, obviously get some road wins, but it's the Big 12. You're not going to really, you're not going to too often win on the road. And then Kansas City was a pretty fun tournament. And I mean, you showed like when Iowa State plays the absolute best thing if you would anybody. I mean, that Arizona game was a prime example of what happens when you get Iowa State their absolute best. So I think there's a lot there's a lot to be desired, but I mean, look at the season as a whole. There are definitely moments that I will enjoy, that I will always look back to, and I will certainly have fun talking about.
Yeah, I look at it that way, sort of like I said earlier in the show about being a what if season. I mean, obviously, I'm sort of going to be long winded about this one. Man, think about you think about the Purdue game, and you think, man, look about where that fan base was. Like we literally at that weekend, we literally just lost Matt Campbell, and we didn't know where the football program was going to be. We still don't know where the football program is going to be, and everybody was like hopeless, despair. Everybody was laughing at us because we lost our head coach. So, I mean, Purdue was like we were like I remember the sentiment going into that game. It was just thinking, man, like I just hope we keep it close. And it ended up like just raising everybody's expectations. Like we ended up destroying Purdue at Mackey, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah. That second half was like an amazing, like that was a masterclass for Iowa State. And I mean, I think with Vegas, you saw kind of the emergence of Killian Torrey against St. John's, trading to Syracuse, but what he did against Braden Smith in Mackey Arena, that really got like people paying attention to Killian Torrey, what he could do defensively. And then Milan Momcilovic had himself a really nice second half in that game. And I mean, that was just an overall beautiful thing. I think I'm gonna always like that has to be one of those games that I'll just like no matter how I feel, I'm just gonna remember that game and I might just go rewatch it or something, and to just give myself a little bit of happiness, honestly. So it's like it's always nice to have those games, and then coming back home, going up against Iowa, things obviously were going well, and seeing where Iowa is now, I mean, Elite Eight, I mean, that's a big accomplishment for them. So, but I mean, they've got things going with Ben McCollum. We'll see what they do in the years. But I mean, it showed that like Iowa State, we could come back from being down like double digits, and I mean, there was a grit there put together. Like Jefferson kind of took over Lipsy, certainly had his moments, and Milan had a couple shots. So that was some good non-con wins, and then in conference, you had that like you started off pretty decently, like you were still like undefeated at that point. You walk into Allen Fieldhouse and you get mollywopped. And I mean, that's at this point basically what Iowa State Kansas is. Every time one team visits the other team's building, you're going to get smacked. It's just whoever the road team is for that game, they're going to get smacked in that building because we eventually return the favor. And then to go from that high of Kansas smacking them to then to go immediately into Big Monday, that was an amazing weekend. That was an amazing weekend for Iowa State fans and for Iowa the team. Because I mean that's to me the Nate Heise legacy is just his perfect game against Houston, and especially that corner three, no dip three.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I wasn't that weekend was an all timer for sure. And obviously we saw what happened at the end of the season to where they sort of limped to like a 2-4 finish and losing to BYU right after they had Saunders and then playing a Texas Tech team at home to where like it sort of got to a point to where everybody was doubting this team again. And once we got to Kansas City, it was basically like, well, this team has to show us something, and they absolutely did. Going into that Friday game with Arizona, I was like, man, hopefully we can play well, and this will elevate us to a 2 seed. And that's exactly what happened. And like what really hurts me is just like everybody was really getting prepared for this, or everybody was playing at their best. So that's sort of what really hurts me, and like really brings in the what if aspect.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a lot of what ifs. Like, this was another year, but I mean, the what ifs, like, they were gonna happen. But it is what it is. But it's not gonna take away from what happened this year for Iowa State. Obviously, this big team, like the senior class we had, that was a really like they were really pivotal for like moments throughout the years. Obviously, Taman Lipsey being the 4-year guy out of the local kid out of Iowa, that's gonna be a story that lives on like Fred Hoiberg. Jefferson definitely is gonna have like his like name heralded as like one of the better like known Cyclones. Nate Hygie, I think he's got an underrated legacy just for what he did in his 2 years in Ames.
Yeah. I will never forget what Nate Hygie has done for um this program. All right, Cody, I wanted to go and dabble into some college basketball news. So we saw earlier this morning. I don't know if you're watching live, you probably did too. And you probably got a ticker on your phone. Ben Jacobson is now heading to Utah State.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably. I mean, Ben Jacobson had been in Northern Iowa for like 20 some years, and I think to me, this is probably a really good job for him to pick up. I mean, he's moving. It's a new place for him, but also he's not going to Power Four because I think if he had wanted to go to Power Four, he would have done it a long time ago, like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty nice job for him. And I mean, this is probably a new era for Northern Iowa. I think this was probably needed too, because like prior to the tournament appearance for Northern Iowa this year, it had gotten a little stagnant. It'd been 10 years without a tournament appearance. I think it was just time to start a new page for Ben Jacobson and Northern Iowa. I mean, looking at Northern Iowa, my best guess would be they hire Steph Tuttle. Some Cycle fans are possibly rumor of like maybe one of the assistants from Iowa State, like a Kyle Green, would become the next head coach in Northern Iowa.
I don't know. I mean, that would make the most sense, but I feel like they would also sort of be taking a pay cut too. Especially with the salary that he makes now as an assistant, you probably would be getting a major pay cut. Another person I saw was also Ali Faroukmanish, who was not coaching at was not coach at Colorado State. So we'll have to see what happens, but that'll be interesting.
Yep. And then I think other like basketball news. I mean, like talk about coaching hires. UNC, North Carolina, who TJ Altenberg was rumored to pause to in talks to become the next head coach of North Carolina. I think they pushed their talk back. North Carolina has to like after the Final Four, which kind of which ease open the possibility that maybe Tommy Lloyd would be in consideration for the next head coach for the Tar Heels.
I don't know. That sort of brings in an interesting conversation. It's like, is it really worth it to like go to one of these blue blood programs? Like, yes, like you'll get all the resources and like all that, but like the expectations are going to be extremely sky high, and like I sometimes feel like wherever the person's at, like that might be better for them because you see Arizona like was always a good program in the Pac-12, but like it was funny because they even said it themselves that all it took was them being in elite conference like the Big 12 to get back to the Final Four. Like they've been battle tested the entire season, and like you know, obviously Tommy Lloyd with his expertise in roster building, like you might be able to get like these types of rosters every single year, and now you have a chance to win your first national championship in almost 30 years. I don't know if I would leave that. Like, I guess North Carolina is like a mess right now too, and you basically have to start all over again from square one. So I guess that's something to really think about.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing maybe for TJ because I think TJ has like he's already experienced what it's like to be at a different program, and obviously sometimes you're already at a place like you're at a place and it's just the perfect fit, and it's like, do you really want to leave for a different place? Because yeah, North Carolina obviously they're gonna have the brand reputation and all, but like TJ does he really want to have to deal with all those expectations and whatnot? Or
Right.
because I think for TJ, I think he believes as long as he believes that he can use the like have the resources to compete and win at a high level, maybe win championships, I think Iowa State is a place to do it. 'Cause, I mean, he's won a Big 12 tournament title before, so it's not like he can do it. Can't do it again. Maybe someday, like the time is due for Iowa State to get over the hump of they get to be an elite or even a Final Four. So I think it's there, and as long as the resources keep coming in for him, I think he'll stay at Iowa State. Plus, I mean, we talked about, like I think I said this before, is watching the Hall of Fame. So at Iowa State, so that would be like quite interesting. Like that would be a certainly a deal if TJ was to leave and leave all that and whatever. Because I feel like if a guy's been here for three different like head coaches as an assistant for becoming the head coach, I think it's a place that he wants to really be the head coach at.
Yeah, and I think just also just the precedent he's setting. I think like you see like people were actually upset that we didn't make it farther in the tournament. Like three Sweet Sixteens in 5 years isn't really something to snuff at. Like the facts now that basically TJ the expectations now are uh Iowa State is at its goal is to make the Sweet 16 every single year. Being that type of program is just absolutely amazing. It really like is a testament to the work that he's done, and just with the freshman class that we have coming in next year, along with whoever we get in the portal, really going to be interesting to um thing to watch. And I Bleav also that with that, Milan's also going to be able to get a pretty quick evaluation on where he's going to be drafted. Because I know with that, Iowa State has 2 weeks to make as many portal moves as possible. And really, his depending on his decision will depend on what type of dollar figure that they can play with in the portal.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like if I'm optimist, like the optimist in me is like saying that he'll stay, but we'll have to see. But if what well, yeah, because I think that's just the ultimate thing. It's what Milan does. Because I mean, he like it's not just him, but like I think a lot of players for Iowa State they would kill to have like certain some teams would kill to have the players that Iowa State has. Like teams would love to have a Jamarian Bateman, Dominicus played a Killian Torre, because Dominicus played like we've seen the development of Dominicus Plata. He's going to be a really nice piece for Iowa State, and keeping him in house would be really nice. And if you especially does help too if you keep Milan in house, then you're gonna have a pretty solid like starting five with Torre, Bateman, Buchanan, Plata, and Momcilovic, and then you got a pretty like I think you have a bench and you see what you bring in the portal and that freshman class. So really, all things considered, result wasn't exactly what we wanted, but I think things are looking really good for Iowa State. Like I would say, it just comes down to the financial part of it, but that's a conversation for uh, a different day. Like for me, because I'm not fully entrenched to it. I think the off season is going to be crucial for Iowa State, but I like where it's at, especially like and if you do keep Milan, that's going to be a huge boost.
Yeah, and let's dive into that world real quick on the transfer portal. I think one of the things that we should talk about is what they should go after in the portal. Like, so for you, what are a few positions that you'd like to see the Cyclones get stronger at?
Obviously, I think the obvious thing would be kind of like size, because we saw what happened when like we saw exactly what happened when we met up against like teams who were much more bigger and more physical than us. We just got outmatched, and that was just a bad matchup. That's something to look at. I know some fans are like we're thinking like we want to get like a pure five, and I mean we've experimented with that. I mean last year with Deshaun Jackson and Frank Chatfield, but it just didn't work out. But I think with what uh, TJ got with Blake Buchanan, it fits pretty well because he's long and he's a little more athletic. So it's just getting some athletic bigs that really bring the defensive intensity would be nice. And then you can't really you can't. It's going to be difficult to replace the production of Joshua Jefferson. There's no doubt about it. So I don't know if you look in that direction, but I think it's just a matter of can you get bigs that can be physical but also athletic around the paint. That would be a nice thing. But I like the development too of Buchanan and Plata, and if Plata can develop maybe a 15-foot shot, develop a little bit of a better paint game, get a jump a hook shot going, because we saw what happened when Rob Jones was able to develop. PJ was able to develop Rob Jones to a competent offensive player. Then I have confidence in him developing Buchanan and Plata.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely see them, especially if Milan leaves. You're definitely going to have to go after somebody really big in the portal to score. And then I'm really sort of interested to see what they're going to do with Mason Williams, because I like somebody asked me if he was going into the portal. I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, it sort of wouldn't make sense for him to even go into the portal. I could see why, but I also sort of want to see, hey, maybe if you give him a chance, see what he has. I'm pretty sure that's probably what they're gonna do, and see maybe what we were missing from this year. I'm really interested to see what we do with Mason Williams.
Yeah, for sure. That I think the freshman class is going to be something to look out for. I saw earlier today, Christian Wiggins was named Mr. Basketball for the state of Minnesota. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, and that's something that Iowa State fans can look forward to. And then Kylian Torre's buddy from France, he's long. I think he's tall and long, but he's also very he's a bit skinny on the skinnier side. So that'll be something to look out for. But it's nice to have that length. And then we get the kid from Australia, would be something to look forward to. So it's just a freshman class, and then see I don't, because I think for Iowa State's budget, I don't know if they necessarily have the biggest budget to go make a splash in the portal, because I was seeing this the budget breakdown. I don't know how accurate this was, but I saw the budget breakdown by each Sweet 16 team, and Iowa State was at the bottom of it with 9 million. The next team would have been Iowa at 11 million.
Yeah. So we'll have that for you coming up in the next few weeks. Also, just be prepared. Our content is going to be sort of shifting back towards football. I can't believe we're already here, man. Spring practice is here, and honestly, bro, it's gonna be fun because we have no idea who this team is. So definitely going to be a lot of in-depth roster breakdown. I Bleav I'm going to be having one of the coaches on. So listeners, stay tuned. Somebody on the offensive side of football. So I think you guys will be excited. So look forward towards that content. Also, see if I can try to find, we can find bring the scout that I had on a few years ago with the incoming NFL draft next month.
Yeah.
So
I think I saw. I think what was it? Iowa State had their pro day.
What was it last week?
Yeah, I think that was last week. I couldn't. I was trying to catch up on that, so I don't know if you were paying attention to NFL pro day for Iowa State.
I wasn't really invested into it, but they did have a pretty good showing, though. I know that.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. So I mean, football. It's this kind of talks to when it comes to allocation. I think a lot. There are some fans and this goes to the NIL thing, where it's do you put more resources in the basketball than you do football?
No.
I feel like you want to, but at the same time, football is I think this was the comment from Rick Barnes prior to the Sweet 16 game in Chicago last weekend. He made a comment where if football does have money, we don't exist. I think Rick Barnes, that comment kind of resonated with a lot of people, and I think that statement makes sense. I think a lot of other coaches that were in Chicago, Nate Oates, Dusty May, were kind of asked about that. TJ wasn't asked about the funny part, but the quote from Rick Barnes, I'm yeah, that it's the hammer. And when it comes to football, men's basketball team for NIL, it's a very fine line to walk through. Because I know on the one hand, some fans probably want more funding on men's basketball, but football, is always going to fund. Like it's going to be the heartbeat of everything.
Yes, that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, I know you may want to be average in football, but the better that you do in football each year is going to help the basketball. Football is the heartbeat of the school. Football will help you. Football will help with your enrollment. As crazy as it sounds, a lot of people want to go to a school where you have a good football team. That's one of the main reasons why Alabama's enrollment is so high, why Georgia's enrollment is so high, why I mean
It's like
shoot.
the southeast, like the
Yeah.
southeast, the SEC in general. A lot of those schools, like they put like a lot of resources into football, and maybe you aren't necessarily like the like big powerhouse of football. Maybe like you're in the middle of the pack or at the a bottom feeder, but still, you're gonna get a lot more money than a lot like most of these other schools because of your SEC affiliation and just how much resources you put into
Mm-hmm.
football. So I think that's something to look for. But we talk about football, yeah, and you talk about like you have no idea what this team is gonna be like. I mean, who knows what this team is gonna? This is gonna be like a wild card, and that's like what's to be expected. But I mean, if Iowa State, like, you can't bank on the fact that we're already like I think thin as we are, like financially, like, being a Big 12 school versus the Big 10 school, and I know like the whole money argument, whatever. It's like whatever TV right deals, or whatever, but it's true. Like if Iowa State, like say the football team goes 3-9, you lose out on like ticket sales because of it. That's gonna ripple into the rest of the sports.
That's the thing. Like, cause you're like, oh, I'd rather be. I'm like, nah, man. I'm like, you need to be the best you can be at football, because that will help
Yeah.
every other program in general. I also am just a big believer in Jimmy Rogers, mainly just
Mm-hmm.
based on the facts because he's done this type of rush. He literally did this last off season, going into Washington State, building a roster with almost 50 plus transfers.
Yeah.
So actually, you see some of the national media be like, "Hold your horses. Iowa State may not be as bad as you think." I know a lot of people would be like, "Well, I don't know." I was like, "But I'm gonna trust the guy who's done this before." We might be in for a very fun season.
Yeah, and I think too with like the new president, President David Cook coming in because he's a big believer in athletics, playing a part into the role of the university, being integrated into the university life. I think we'll get help there because of David Cook's enthusiasm towards athletics.
Yeah, so it should be interesting to see, and I'm really excited to cover football this summer with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talked about like kind of portal. We talked about men's basketball team. Boy, the women's basketball is in a whole different territory. 9
Yeah.
players have officially entered the transfer portal. I saw earlier today Kenzie Hare entered the transfer portal. This is from On3 Talia Goodman. She's been reporting the exodus that's been going on with the women's basketball team. And I mean, we saw too earlier today. Tommy Burt's reached out to both Jamie Pollard and head coach Bill Fennelly for comments about like the situation with the women's basketball program, and both parties just declined to comment. So that's gonna that's certainly them declining it, and in addition to what has already been going on with the exit, like the transfers, that really raises some major concerns and maybe some red flags around the program.
There's that, and then I believe Lindsay Fennelly, his wife, put out something on social media yesterday. So yeah, I was gonna ask you if you have any clue what's gonna go on, like
I
because it just seems like we they keep losing players day after day after day, and I'm like, and they're still also waiting on seats to see what Audie's gonna do. But it seems like this is gonna be a complete rebuild.
I think the problem that we have in a lot of these sports is there's no transparency. Like
Yes.
like all parties, like nobody's transparent in this sport, and that leads to a bunch of people speculating, whether it's reporters or it's fans like us on Twitter
Right.
and other places, social media. We're all speculating, and it's because nobody's transparent in this world of college athletics. So that's just one thing I do ask: like, can we be transparent, please, and like put it outright whether
Mm-hmm.
something is happening or not, and not play this game of kicking the bucket down the road. I mean, it's like my speculation. I would guess like people have been throwing around the possibility of Bill Fennelly retiring, and I mean, I could see it with all the players leaving. There might be a possibility that Bill Fennelly has like probably sent it to the team, but they're waiting for like things to be like ironed out, and then they'll officially announce it. But still, I mean, yeah, everyone's waiting for what Iowa's going to do, and I mean, thus far, the only player that has been confirmed to return for the women's team is Evangelia Paul, backup guard for Iowa State. She's the only one that has confirmed to stay, so we'll at least have her presumably for next year. Still waiting on Audie Brooks. We're still waiting on Ariana Jackson, but I saw a tweet like from Ariana Jackson on Twitter, and it basically said like Ariana, like it's the reading between the lines states that Ariana is going to stay.
Yeah.
Games, and I mean that makes sense for Ariana Jackson. I mean, like,
well, she's close to the bone. Like, she's from Des Moines. Like, her family is Cyclones.
Yeah, her family Cyclones. I mean, she grew up in Des Moines and went to Roosevelt High School. So yeah, I'm not surprised that she's staying. And plus, she was a prominent she was a prominent starter for us. She was a consistent starter for us. So I mean, this whole situation is like a kind of just back and forth, no clue. And I mean, this does add like if you're like an outsider looking into Iowa State, you have to question this like the stability of the athletics program. Considering one, you just had your football team get purged to a Happy Valley. You then cut your gymnastics program, and I mean that's still going on because I think I was seeing a reel on Instagram talking like asking about the current state, and then you have this thing going on with the women's basketball program. So I mean, a lot of things, a lot of turmoil. It seems like inside the athletics program, but I'm hoping this rough patch, but I'm hoping we can like Iowa State gets through this and comes out on the better side of it.
Yeah, hopefully, because we need this athletics department to be in better shape. Yeah. All right, Cody.
And women's basketball. I wanted to add on, like at least in the state of Iowa, it's one of the few programs that consistently gets support both Iowa and Iowa State. So women's basketball generally is I think I've said it on a previous episode, but in case haven't heard before, like women's basketball in general is a non-revenue sport, but very few places generate some level of revenue. Iowa and Iowa State are among them because this is a sport that Cycle fans have had for the women's basketball program. Is like not like many other places, but with this situation, who knows what's gonna go down.
Yeah. All right, Cody. We're going to end today's episode. Thank you guys for listening to the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. A big thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel. Guys, it's baseball season. I went to a baseball game in Milwaukee. Yep, the A, Atlanta Braves. I already have lost hope already. The White Sox are 0-3. But hey, Muneka Murakami is a star. He's hit a home run in every single game this season. So very, very excited to see him hit home runs as the White Sox lose 100 games again. So if you want to bet the over or under for White Sox wins this year, you can do it on FanDuel.
It's the road to 0-162 to a
yeah, to an if 160. He might hit 162 home runs.
It's gonna be a race between the White Sox, the A's, and the Rockies, and the D-backs and the Giants to see who's gonna go down. But yeah, I mean, my Atlanta Braves 2-1 got the series win. Was hoping for the series sweep over the Kansas City Royals. But, I mean, that Dominic Smith walk-off grand slam was a thing of beauty. That literally saved my sports weekend.
I couldn't believe it. Yesterday was an ultimate collapse by the White Sox, dude. Colson Montgomery hit a grand slam in the first inning. And we also hit 3 home runs in that game. Tell me how. We were up 7-2 in that game in the second inning and somehow lost 9-7 to the Milwaukee Brewers.
I don't know. That's levels. Like there's levels to the baseball collapses, but I mean, I guess all things considered, it could be worse. You could be a Rockies fan.
Thank goodness I'm not a Rockies fan.
God, I mean, speaking of like the NL West, there are 3 teams in that division that are winless to start. The Giants, the D-backs, and the Rockies. The only one that has a winning record are the Dodgers.
God.
Let's see.
What about the Padres?
So the Padres, they're 1-2.
Oh, okay.
So they went up against Detroit. They lost the series to Detroit. And then I think I have obviously my close friend who's a Twins fan. They're 1-2, so I think they already lost hope as well.
Ew. I hate the Twins. I hate the Minnesota Twins.
I mean, you can call them the T's, honestly, because they don't win.
Yes. Like,
Shout out
out of all the teams in the AL Central, that's who I despise the worst. And then, like, Kansas City, we sort of switched places with them. Now we're the worst team in that division.
Yeah.
But Detroit, it's going to be between Detroit and Cleveland again for the division.
For the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, not just baseball. Baseball season, obviously, you've got the Final Four.
Yeah.
For men's basketball, looking at the game lines, Illinois is a 2.5 point favorite over UConn, and Michigan is a 1.5 point favorite over Arizona. That Michigan-Arizona game should be a fun one.
It's going to be cinema.
Yeah, it's just disappointing that that's the Final Four. That's not the national championship. Beggars can't be choosers, I guess. But I mean, I feel bad for anybody who put like Duke, like I feel bad. Like I don't feel bad actually for anybody that had Duke winning against UConn. But man, if you were able to cash UConn live spread or money line when UConn was down, you should have won a good amount of money from that.
Yeah, that's why you need to, if you know ball, go and make money with FanDuel. So, also, if you need to reach out to us, you can find Cody at Joshua Jefferson's ankle boot. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something before football season starts up.
I don't know. It might be something related to baseball. I don't know. We'll see.
Man. And then you can find me on Twitter at SciTi Guy. It is NFL draft season for me. So right now I'm tuned in to everything football because the White Sox are not going to run my happiness. I just don't care about baseball. I'll still go to games because going to baseball games are fun in person. But the White Sox, you
might have to find like a 999 challenge. That will probably be the only way you get through a White Sox game.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Also, if you want to keep up with what they're doing on social media, here are the 6 forms: social media: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitch. The Twitch handle is Bleav in ISU 2025. All right. In closing, for Tyler Carter
and for Cody Metzel,
this is the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. Roll Clones, baby.
Go Cyclones. Damn. Dude,